You notice her glance. It lasts a second longer than it should. She smiles, but only when you're in the room. Suddenly, she remembers details from a conversation you had a week ago, even though there's no reason for her to remember. And you think, does this mean something? Well, it might. In the workplace, no one wants to be exposed. There's no space here for grand gestures, bold declarations, or obvious flirting. There's hierarchy. There's reputation. There's social pressure. That's why interest hides in micro-signals, in glances that say more than words, in gestures that seem casual but never are. And that's exactly what causes most men to miss these signals. Because they're subtle. Because they come wrapped in ordinary interactions. Because they don't shout, they whisper. But you don't have to miss them anymore. Today, I want to show you 5 of the most common and most reliable ways she communicates interest at work. Discreetly, safely, but very consciously. You'll also learn how to differentiate real flirtation from simple politeness, to avoid misinterpretations and situations that could turn your professional comfort into embarrassment. Because at work, the stakes are higher, and understanding how she really communicates can open doors you didn't even know existed. The foundation. One signal means nothing. Before we dive into the 5 concrete signals, a fundamental rule: a single gesture means nothing. Read that again. One look, one smile, one small interaction. That's not a signal. That's noise. That's politeness. That's social culture. At work, people smile, they chat, they ask questions. But if the same gestures repeat, if they appear in context, if they happen more with you than with others, then you no longer have noise. You have a pattern. And patterns tell the truth. Behavioral psychology confirms this. An isolated behavior is ambiguous, but consistent repetition changes the meaning. It's like watching raindrops. 1 drop is chance. 100 drops is a storm. So when we talk about these 5 ways, remember, look for combinations. Look for repetitions. Look for selectivity. Does she do this only with you or with everyone? Because genuine interest doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in the sum of micro-choices she makes every day, often without even realizing it. Now let's get to the facts. Signal 1. Eye contact. Private micro-smile. The first thing you see before you even hear anything is the look. But it's not ordinary eye contact. It's the kind that lasts too long. The kind where she looks, holds, looks away, and comes back. Or the one where you cross paths in the hallway, in a meeting, at the coffee machine, and she gives you a short, warm smile. Not a smile she distributes to everyone, a smile just for you. It's the private micro-smile, small, discreet, but intimate. Why does this work? Because eye contact changes how we process another person's presence. When someone looks at you, really looks, your attention concentrates. Your brain registers that person as important. From a neurobiological standpoint, direct eye contact activates areas responsible for social engagement and emotional connection. But there's more. When she maintains that contact longer than would be neutral, then looks away and returns, that's a sign of conscious regulation. She's not looking on autopilot. She's looking because she wants you to notice. And the micro-smile? It's a reference point. It's her way of saying, I see you, and I'm happy to see you. How to know if it's real interest and not just politeness? Observe the repetition. Does she do this many times? In different situations, not just when she needs something? Observe the selectivity. Does she smile like this at everyone, or do you receive a special version? And pay attention to the timing. Does she look at you in moments when she could be neutral? For example, you walk into the room, she's busy, but she still lifts her gaze and smiles. That's not by accident. Now imagine a practical example. You're at the office. She's a few desks ahead. You lift your gaze and see that she's looking at you. Caught in the act, she smiles slightly, looks away, And shortly after, looks again. Doesn't say anything. Doesn't need to. Because she just said everything. If this happens frequently, it's not an accident. It's intention. Think about your own experience. Have you ever felt someone's gaze on you, turned, and found them already looking? That millisecond before they look away carries energy. And when it's accompanied by that small, knowing smile, the one that's almost apologetic for being caught but not quite, you're witnessing something real. The eyes are hardwired to our emotional centers. We can control our words, even our facial expressions to some degree, but sustained eye contact? That requires genuine interest. It requires the brain deciding, this person matters enough to track. And when she gives you that private smile, the one that doesn't quite reach her professional mask with others, she's creating a secret language between you. A language that exists in plain sight but is invisible to everyone else. Signal 2. Functional pretext to talk to you. The second way is brilliant in its simplicity. She finds a reason, always professional, to approach you. She asks your opinion about something small, asks for a detail she could check herself, confirms something she already knows, asks for a quick tip, 30 seconds of conversation, maybe a minute. And then, she adds, so how was your weekend? I heard you're on this project. How's it going? I remember you mentioned that thing. Did you figure it out? Now it's no longer just a pretext. It's an extension. It's creating a space where the contact stops being formal and starts becoming personal. Why does she do it this way? Because direct flirting at work can be risky. It can be misinterpreted. It can generate gossip. It can make her uncomfortable. But work conversation is safe. There's always an excuse. I just asked about the report. I just needed to confirm. But you and I know it's more than that. Psychology says this clearly. When someone consistently creates contact opportunities, even without necessity, it's a sign of social investment. It's a sign that this person wants to be near you, seeks micro moments that make her feel closer, without an official declaration. And this is precisely the strategy of women who are more shy, careful, or professional. They won't say it to your face, but they'll create a path for you to take the next step. How to differentiate a signal of interest from needing help. See if the conversation extends beyond the professional topic. If it ends at the report, it's about the report. If it turns into light chat about the weekend, life, something personal, that's different. See if she remembers what you said. If a week later she brings up a subject that was only mentioned in passing, it's because she listened carefully. And attention is emotional currency. And observe the frequency. If these small questions start happening every week, then twice, then 3 times, and always with you, even though there are other people on the team who could help, it's a clear sign. She's not seeking help, she's seeking you. I've seen this pattern countless times. A woman will have a perfectly capable colleague sitting right next to her, but she'll walk across the office to ask you something. The question itself might be legitimate, but the choice of who to ask, that's where the truth lives. And here's what's fascinating from a psychological perspective. She often doesn't fully realize she's doing it. The rational mind creates the work-related question, but the emotional brain is choosing you as the person to ask. It's a perfect example of how interest operates, part conscious strategy, part unconscious pull. Signal 3, selective attention and memory for details. You remember that a month ago you mentioned you root for a specific team? Or that you had a stressful week because of that project? Or that you were traveling over the weekend? And now she brings it up again. For no reason. No context. Simply, she remembers. So, your team? Did they finally win? Did you solve that project that was consuming you? Did you get back from that trip? These aren't random questions. They're conscious signals. Because when someone listens to you carefully enough to store details that had no professional relevance, she's investing emotionally in you. That's how the brain creates bonds, through memory of shared experiences, even if they're just quick conversations. Why is this such a strong indicator? Because attention is a limited resource. At work, you have dozens of interactions per day. You don't store details about everyone. You store what has meaning. And if she stores them, it's because you have meaning. From a neuronal perspective, when you're emotionally interested in someone, your brain better encodes information connected to that person. It's not conscious effort. It's a side effect of involvement. So when she asks about details you mentioned in passing 1, 2, 3 weeks ago, it's not just politeness. It's an echo of the interest that stayed in her memory, because you stayed in her attention. Let me give you a real example. I once worked with a colleague who remembered I was stressed about my grandmother's surgery, something I'd mentioned once in passing weeks earlier. When I came back to the office, she quietly asked how my grandmother was doing. Not in a meeting, not for show, just a genuine, private moment of care. That's not something you remember about everyone. That's something you remember about someone who occupies space in your emotional landscape. How to check? See if it's just with you or with everyone. If she remembers everything about everyone, maybe she's just a very attentive person. But if you receive this attention more than others, that changes things. Test reciprocity. Remember something she told you. If she smiles, blushes slightly, or says, "You remembered?" with pleasant surprise, that confirms emotional value in this exchange. And notice if she asks things that aren't necessary for work. If she's interested in your weekend, hobby, how you are, and not just your report, it's a sign that the boundaries are expanding. The human brain has limited capacity for what psychologists call active memory. We can't remember every detail about every person we interact with. Our brains are selective, storing what matters, discarding what doesn't. When she remembers that small thing you said, the thing even you barely remember saying, her brain has marked you as significant. And significance is the first step toward something more. Signal 4. Comfortable proximity. Open body language. This signal is silent, but physical. And because of that, it's very reliable. When you talk, she sits closer, even though there are other options. She turns her whole body in your direction, not just her head, leans in slightly to hear you. Her posture is open, arms uncrossed, not holding her bag or phone like a shield. These are details, but they say a lot. Nonverbal psychology has confirmed for decades. Body orientation, lean, and open posture are classic signs of engagement and affinity. When someone feels good with you, the body opens. When they feel uncomfortable or indifferent, the body creates barriers, crossed arms, turning the torso away, increasing distance. So when she chooses to sit next to you in a meeting, even with chairs available far away, when she stays close at the coffee machine and doesn't retreat, just remains, when her body is relaxed and natural near you, this is spatial communication that says, "I feel safe with you, and I want to be close." It's not always conscious. Often the body reacts before the mind. And precisely because of that, it's authentic. Body language doesn't lie the way words can. You can say, "I'm fine," while your arms are crossed defensively, your jaw is tight, and your feet are pointed toward the exit. The body tells the truth. When a woman is genuinely comfortable with you, when there's genuine interest, her body reflects that. She doesn't create physical barriers. She doesn't maintain maximum distance. She doesn't angle herself away as if ready to escape. Instead, she settles in. She relaxes. She leans. How to interpret without making mistakes. See if the proximity is choice, not chance. Did she sit close more than once? Observe the reaction. When you're near, does she move away, discomfort, or stay and seem calm? Pay attention to orientation. If her body is turned in another direction, she's ready to leave. If it's turned toward you, with relaxed shoulders, that's engagement. And remember, combination matters. Proximity plus eye contact plus memory of details, our pattern. And pattern isn't guesswork. It's a message. I want you to think about this. We live in a world where personal space is sacred. We maintain distance from strangers. We create invisible bubbles around ourselves. Breaking that bubble requires comfort, trust, or attraction. When she consistently enters your space and stays there comfortably, she's telling you something without words. She's saying, "Your presence doesn't make me retreat. It makes me want to come closer." Signal 5. Discreet social validation, specific compliment, plus encouragement. The last way is subtle, but psychologically powerful. She compliments you, not generically, specifically. "You explained that really well in that meeting. Good solution. I wouldn't have thought of that. I like how you handle this type of problem." This isn't an automatic thanks for the help. It's a directed compliment that says, "I noticed, and I value it." Beyond that, she laughs easily when you speak, even if it wasn't that funny, and she includes you in group plans. "We're going to lunch. You coming with us? We're thinking of going out after work. It would be great if you came." These aren't formal invitations. They're micro-invitations to a social space where she wants you to be. Why does this work especially for shy or cautious women? Because it allows showing interest without declaring it. She doesn't need to say, "I like you." She says, "I like what you do." And emotionally, that has a similar effect. Chemically, compliments and validation release dopamine and oxytocin, linked to pleasure and bonding. When she gives you these reinforcements consistently, she builds an emotional trail. You start to feel good around her. And here's the psychological mechanism at play. Positive reinforcement creates association. When she compliments you, your brain links her presence with positive feelings. When she laughs at your jokes, you feel funnier, more confident around her. When she invites you to join, you feel wanted, valued. This isn't manipulation. It's the natural way humans build connection. But when it's selective, when it's repeated, when it's specifically directed at you, it becomes a signal. How to differentiate from politeness. See the specificity. Good is politeness. "I liked how you spoke to that client. You had so much patience, requires real attention." See frequency and selectivity. Does everyone get this? Or do you get more? And observe invitations. If she suggests being together outside of work, in a group or one-on-one, it's no longer just networking. It's an attempt to expand contact. Think about the difference between "nice job" and "I really appreciated how you handled that difficult conversation. You stayed calm when I would have gotten frustrated." The second one requires observation, thought, and genuine noticing. When a woman gives you this level of specific validation repeatedly, she's not just being nice. She's building you up in her own eyes and yours. She's creating reasons for both of you to see you as valuable, capable, attractive. How not to misinterpret the 3 filters. You can see all of this and still be wrong. That's why you need 3 filters. Filter 1, consistency. One gesture proves nothing. But repetition in different contexts creates a pattern. Question: did it happen more than once? Did it last more than a week? Filter 2, exclusivity. Does she do this with you more than with others? Question: do I receive a special version? Filter 3, escalation. Are the signals becoming more personal and frequent? Example: look, conversation, personal question, group lunch, coffee for 2. If it passes all 3, the chance of it being interest is high. But remember, certainty only exists when someone takes a clear step. These filters are your protection against both false positives and false negatives. They keep you from seeing interest where there's only friendliness, and they help you recognize genuine interest when it's actually there. Because here's the truth. Most men make one of 2 mistakes. Either they see interest everywhere and make uncomfortable advances, or they see interest nowhere and miss every opportunity. Both come from the same problem. not understanding the difference between isolated incidents and meaningful patterns. A pattern isn't one smile. It's smiles, plus proximity, plus memory, plus inclusion, repeated over time, directed specifically at you. That's the difference between wishful thinking and accurate reading. Safety and professionalism. The rule you can't break at work. The stakes are higher. It's not just you and her, it's reputation, comfort, internal politics. So never pressure, never expose, never be insistent. Golden rule. The next step has to be light and easy to decline. Not, want to go out sometime? But, I'm getting coffee after work at that place nearby. If you want, you're welcome to join. This creates space for yes and for no without embarrassment. And about hierarchy. If you're her boss or she's yours, go much slower. Hierarchical relationships carry greater risk of perceived pressure and ethical issues. I want to be very clear about this because it matters deeply. Workplace relationships require an extra layer of consciousness and care. The power dynamics, the daily proximity, the professional consequences, all of this means you cannot approach workplace interests the way you might in a bar or on a dating app. The invitation has to have an exit. The interaction has to preserve her dignity and comfort whether she's interested or not. And you have to be absolutely certain you're reading genuine interest, not politeness or professional necessity. This isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about being the kind of person who respects boundaries, reads situations accurately, and values someone else's comfort as much as your own interest. She probably won't say at work, "I'm interested," but she communicates, with micro-signals, a look that lasts a second too long, a micro-smile just for you, professional pretexts that become personal chat, memory for details, comfortable proximity, specific compliments and discreet invitations. These signals are silent, but if you know where to look, they become clear. Look for patterns, not isolated moments. Look for selectivity, not universal friendliness. Look for escalation, not static interaction. And when you see these things, when the filters align, when the pattern emerges, you'll know you're not imagining it. You'll know she's communicating in the only way she safely can at work. Because attraction at work doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It whispers, it hints. It creates small openings and waits to see if you notice. And now, you know how to notice. You know the difference between a polite smile and a private one. Between a work question and a pretext. Between casual attention and selective memory. Between neutral distance and chosen closeness. Between generic praise and specific validation. You have the language. Now it's about reading it accurately and responding with the same care, respect, and subtlety she's showing you. Because at the end of the day, these signals aren't just about attraction. They're about someone taking a risk, a small, carefully managed risk, to let you know you matter. To create a bridge between professional and personal. To see if you might feel the same way. And that deserves to be met with awareness, respect, and equal care. Now I want to hear from you. Have you noticed these signals from someone at work? Which one is hardest for you to interpret, and why? Is it the eye contact that you second-guess? The physical proximity that feels ambiguous? The compliments that could just be professional encouragement? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your experiences help all of us understand these dynamics better. And if this resonated with you, if you're starting to see patterns you missed before, subscribe to Psychology with Natalie Whitman. We're building a community of people who want to understand human behavior with clarity, not confusion. Who want to navigate relationships with confidence, not guesswork. Because psychology isn't just theory. It's the language of everything we do, every day, with every person we meet. And the better you speak that language, the better you live.